Yeah, the FBI has already arrested several alleged neo-Nazis on firearms charges. They say that they were planning on attending that rally. It's an escalation in tensions that we've been tracking closely for months. Let's start in November. For the first time in 26 years, the Democrats won the majority in the Commonwealth. That immediately raised skepticism on the right, and the left proposed a bunch of stricter gun laws. That led to cities, towns, and counties passing their own legislation, deeming the areas Second Amendment sanctuaries. In other words, making them exempt from following any new gun laws. But get this, the Attorney General says gun laws would have to be enforced anyway. Culpeper County Sheriff Scott Jenkins spoke out against the gun bills and said he would deputize people rather than take their guns away.
So if it means me swearing in thousands of people in this community as deputy sheriffs, auxiliary deputies as we currently have on staff, that's what I will do.
That was in January, the day before the legislative session started. Just yesterday, 3 of the proposed gun bills passed the Senate. There's a lot to them, but here are the basics. Senate Bill 35 would give the power to local jurisdictions to prohibit guns in any form from a public space during an event. Senate Bill 70 would require a background check for any firearm transfer. And without one, the seller could be found guilty of a felony. And Senate Bill 69 would limit handgun purchases, prohibiting anyone that's not a firearm dealer from buying more than one gun within a 30-day period. The House will now consider those bills. So gun rights advocates are planning a pro-gun rally at the State House on Monday. Governor Northam declared a state of emergency for the event, concerned about threats of armed militia groups storming the Capitol. He also prohibited all weapons, including firearms, from Capitol grounds. The FBI has already arrested 3 alleged neo-Nazi group members, reportedly planning to attend that rally. The rally is organized by the Virginia Defense League. Organizer Philip Van Cleve previously said they're expecting 135,000 armed protesters from across the country to be there. Van Cleve told CBS the rally wouldn't be stopped because of the arrests.
They're the problem makers. If they're trying to create problems, the police will handle them. We will go on.
He made a statement on the group's website saying the Lobby Day is a peaceful event about gun rights and nothing else. Of course, this is a story we'll stay on top of. In the studio, I'm Colby Satterfield.